Hi friends, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People, and I want to address this comment. It's a it's not an easy question to answer. This thing that's being brought up here. Um, Contained within this comment are so many of the issues of being a person in the modern world and complications of that and so forth. Please use a different word to foist your associations of social cringiness upon. Preferably one that does not have the effect of habituating a negative emotional response upon a race, sexual orientation, or gender identity. I have no problem with your disdain for that kind of attitude, but when you use the word gay to refer to it, you have an effect that systematically disadvantages actual homosexual people. I disagree with you. I disagree with you on a number of levels here, but let's start with the beginning. Foist your associations of social cringiness. So it's like something socially cringy, I call it gay, right? Preferably one that does not have the effect of habituating a negative emotional response. I think what you're saying is normalizing is the word you mean, or upholding. Upholding, and not a response either. You're saying one that does not have the effect of upholding a negative social norm that is dismissive towards the individual based on group membership. I'm number one proponent of the anti-group reduction platform. It's like I'm 100% with you that you should never reduce individuals to members of the group. I grew up in a different time period in which homosexuality was not acceptable socially. And we used the word gay to mean shitty, lame, gay, whatever. Um, the key distinction to make here is to note that how we use a word is going to be the determining factor. So if I were saying, I don't like that guy, he's gay, and he's actually gay, well then I'm reducing him to a member of his group. If I say, I don't like that TV show, it's gay, and I just mean it's lame, or perhaps even it's got a lot of gaiety to it, like there's a lot of homosexual storylines or something. Well, I'm not talking about any individual, reducing any individual. I'm talking about media. So this is an issue where people who fail to recognize that objects of analysis and people are different things are going to have this sort of response. They're going to say, but it's triggering. When you say that video is gay, you're triggering gay people to experience a negative emotional response, which is, I think that's why she used that, or he, J, J4, Jano kicks, Jano kicks. I think 4 is A and 1 is L and 5 is S in like internet code or whatever. So yeah, it might be triggering for them, but the fact that you may have spent Some of you are like being stabbed by a fork. Doesn't mean I shouldn't use one to eat food. If you're triggered, then you need to get over that. So, I don't like having my language policed. Unless I said something that's worth policing. I'm not attempting to express disdain for homosexuals. I'm not attempting to reduce their experience to less legitimate. I'm saying instead that, first of all, there is an adjective we need to have here, which is fruity or gay, right? There's a lot of shit that's fruity. It's not necessarily bad. I probably don't like it. And to pretend that it's something other than fruity is just to prioritize our emotional attachment to certain social mythologies ahead of something vastly more important. So the thing is, all individuals have an ally in me. I am never going to reduce any individual to a member of their group. And I'm also not going to coddle anybody. If I buy some weed and I go, oh my God, this is a fat sack of weed, I'm going to say that even if I'm sitting next to a fat person. They might be triggered, but that's their problem. I'm not attacking them. I'm not making a comment about them. I might say, I don't like this movie. It's obese. It runs too long. It's filled with too many storylines. And everything goes too slow. I'm not attacking obese people. I'm using a metaphor and expressing the way in which this media runs afoul of my attentional preferences. Namely, it's not fast enough. Similarly, when I condemn some piece of media as gay, I'm saying, it's gay, I don't like it. It's super gay. It's either fruity or just self-indulgent and not serious. Like, it doesn't mean, like, something can be funny and still not be gay because it's serious in its funniness. Shit that's gay is like, it's not serious. It's just, it's an incarnation of the special snowflake syndrome. Like, I'm a special snowflake, so whatever nonsense I want to spew is wonderful. And the fact that it's fruity and self-indulgent doesn't matter to me. Then you're going to make a piece of gay media. It doesn't matter if you're straight or bisexual or homosexual. I also want to say, these things you're talking about, race, sexual orientation, and gender identity, don't exist. I'm transracial. I've been lots of different races, and let me tell you, it's a completely arbitrary self-identification. Sexual orientation. You can describe somebody's sexual behavior. This person exclusively sleeps with women, or exclusively sleeps with men, or sleeps with both. But that's not an orientation. That's a behavior. And gender identity. You don't have gender identity. You have gender. You don't even have gender. You have a sex. It's either male or female. you may get off as a male on being girly and submissive. And sometimes that might manifest in homosexuality, like you get off on being girly and submissive to other men, I guess. And you might be female and get off on being masculine and dominant and want to get all masculine and dominant on some other chicks. That's fine. That's not a sexual orientation either. That's a choice to indulge stuff that makes you feel good. Gender identity. What? There's room in the category female for all manner of expression of degrees of femininity and masculinity. Because unlike the sex female, masculinity and femininity aren't real things. They're social, they're fuzzy social standards. And there's plenty of room in the sex male for all range of femininity and masculinity because, again, femininity and masculinity are descriptors that link to a social norm that's fuzzy, whereas male is something that we can determine objectively. So there are two genders, male and female, and every other claim to the contrary is it's an attack on the utility of language. It's an attack on objectivity. We can determine from our chromosomes whether we are male or female. It is a binary status. It is not sliding scale. Some things in life are binary and some things are sliding scale. Gender or sex, it's probably called sex. People have a sex, they don't have a gender. Language is gendered. So, you can't have a gender identity. It's like saying, like can pronouns have a gender identity? People don't. People have a sex. We use the gendered pronoun that matches their sex. And one of the problems I run afoul of sometimes is I'll encounter transgender people who tend to feel safe dealing with me because they know I'm not going to reduce them to a member of their group. However, when dealing with them, I run afoul of this gender pronoun thing. If somebody doesn't inform me that they're self-identifying as transgender, then I'm left to go with my gut, which is, that's a dude. But what if I'm wrong and it's just a super masculine looking chick? Now, I want to use the gender pronouns that relate to my perception. And I want to perceive the person as they actually are, not as they pretend to be. So, at the same time, if the masculinity displayed by a given person with a female name is just landing within that wide range of possible expressions of femininity and masculinity that can manifest under the absolute status of female. If she is, in fact, chromosomally female, I don't want to use male gendered pronouns for her. And concurrently, if it's a dude who's acting like a chick, I don't want to use female pronouns for him. So under normal circumstances, I'd confirm. A woman who's chromosomally female deserves to have me exercise a great deal of care regarding my perceptions. In other words, I should perceive that person as female if they're chromosomally female, and I know it. Thus, having good reason to know it is sufficient to justify my using female pronouns. But if I don't know for sure, it makes things tricky. I don't want to do a transgendered person the disservice of using non-chromosomally determined pronouns, because that's lying to them. And it's playing into this whole bullshit notion that our storybook ideas about ourselves are more important than our physical selves. You are the animal you were born as. And it may be the case that some people are well served by some kinds of corrective surgeries or even cosmetic surgeries that remedy a very specific problem in circumstances where the individual has a very specific problem. So it's like, if I were a female, I might conceivably have wanted to get a nose job because I've got a pretty big nose. The reason would have been because something like, well, if I make this one change, it's going to make a dramatic difference in how I'm perceived as desirable by men. This one easily remediable reality, if remedied, will empower me substantially in concrete and meaningful ways. It is not the case that any transgendered person is empowered by using medical science to attack their animal nature. There is no actualization or realization of self or optimization of self that can be attained by attacking one's animal self or by attacking one's character self. You cannot cut off your nose to spite your face and have good outcomes happen. So, transgenderism is a way for people to avoid reconciling sometimes challenging, reconciling elements of the self that are sometimes challenging to reconcile. None of us have a perfectly easy path. We are all in some ways conflicted. There are aspects of the self that we wish were different. I wish I were a little bit taller. I wish I had a phone and a girl I would call her. Said that one song. You might wish you were taller, you might wish you were thinner, you might wish you were smarter, you might wish you were prettier, you might wish whatever. And we all have things about ourselves that we think we'd be happier about if they were different. But, let's say I wanted to be shorter. I'm 6'4"-ish. A little bit more than 6'4", a little less than 6'5", something there. Say I wanted to be shorter. The resolution of that unfulfilled desire is not to fulfill the desire, right? It's to It's to do the spiritual work necessary to reconcile the fact that my desire is inconsistent with reality and represents some disquiet with my own ontology that needs to be addressed. Nobody is ontologically in need of a different animal self. Many people are ontologically in need of sitting down across the table with themselves and attaining reconciliation, forgiving themselves for being what they are, whatever that is. You know, like for example, a transgender person needs to forgive themselves for upholding norms other than societal norms. They need to forgive themselves for being other than what other people wanted them to be. And they need to come to understand how it is that their unique expression of human existence how the slabs want that individual to find answers regarding their ontological disquiet. There's no answer in, you know, if I'm a gambling addict, it means I've got some sort of disquiet in my soul about that is satisfied by gambling. I mean, I'm an alcohol addict. I have some disquiet in my soul that really is only satisfied by alcohol. Like, I feel that since I quit drinking, from that moment until the end of my life, I'll never again feel truly relaxed. I'll never again feel truly at rest. I'll never again feel finally everything's right in the world. I'll never feel that again because I have ontological disquiet that's satiated only by that. It doesn't mean I should drink. It means that's my cross to bear. I can't attack my animal self with alcohol in order to make the disquiet go away and claim it's the right or healthy approach. So too with transgenderism. It's an addiction to desire, as all addictions are. It's a dopamine management problem. It's also a problem of ease. In the first world, in this day and age, millennials especially, raised by really good parents in general, or loving parents. Like my generation raised a lot of the millennials. We had the millennials and raised them, and we're a loving generation, not necessarily a loved generation. We're known to be the latchkey kids, the ones who weren't raised by anybody. We're just feral kids shoved out into the world, and we never came together generationally as a community, as an identity. We rejected communities. It's a cynical generation. Born and raised in a time of plenty. And also a time when the more nesty aspects of humanity were being subjugated by dreams of progress. The 70s, you know. And then again, in the 80s, a time when the individual, the individual's capacity and habits of satiating himself were again under attack. Oh, just say no shit, Nancy Reagan, all that stuff. They were not times that respected, recognized, or instilled in the youth any sense of the value of the particularist. They were both pendulum swings on the universalist scale. The removal from equations of inherent differentiation between individuals because of their animal natures, and an embrace instead of broad social concepts. So I come out of that time period with something close to contempt for broad social concepts. And I would argue at the end of the day that your comment does more damage to gay people than anything I've ever said. Your comment suggests that gay people need to be treated like children. So I can say I got a fat sack of weed. I can say that movie's lame. You could argue that I'm triggering fat people and people with physical disabilities. You could say, oh my God, that argument is so retarded. You could say I'm attacking people with mental retardation. But you'd be wrong in all cases. What I'm doing is saying the world doesn't have bumpers on it. This is real bowling. And sometimes it's going to go into the gutter. So you got to deal with that. I'm going to be bowling here. And while I'm bowling, sometimes I make a bad throw. And I go into the gutter. The fact that I have my own strategy for bowling. This is a terrible analogy, but it doesn't mean that it's a terrible analogy. It's just a fucking terrible analogy. What's it? Look, the thing is this. Somebody might use the word pedantic. I might feel triggered. Well, I don't think we should criticize people for being know-it-alls because I'm a know-it-all and people have teased me about that before and it hurts my feelings. So don't use that word anymore. Anyone and everyone can be triggered by something. So triggering cannot be used as a ethical guide at all. What we can say is, if you are using language that reduces individuals to members of a group so as to heap disdain upon those individuals, or so as to remove from those individuals their individuality and instead impose upon them a bunch of shit that you made up about their group, then you've got good cause to call them out on it. But I didn't do that. And what I'm doing instead is saying, I'm not going to treat you like children, gay people. I'm going to treat you like everybody else. If you'd like to be treated like a child, that's you. That's not gay people. And if you're not gay and you'd like to treat gay people as children, that's you, not straight people. So I'm not going to treat anybody like children. I'm not going to reduce anybody to a member of their group. I'm going to assume everybody can handle a language that's not reductive in that fashion, even if it is triggering. So, to all the retards and fags out there, don't be triggered by my language. You know, we all have a little retard in us. We all have a little fag in us. It's okay. You know? And lots of stuff in the world, most things in the world that are retarded or gay are not people. But that doesn't mean there aren't retarded people, and that doesn't mean that there aren't gay people. When I use the word retarded to refer to a media object, I mean it's dumb. When I use the word retarded to refer to a person, I mean they have a cognitive disability. They're mentally retarded. It doesn't matter how many times we switch the word we use for retarded people. The new word that we come up with will always come to mean retarded, and people will use it accordingly. So, why change it all? You can't use the word special anymore without people thinking you're right on the small bus. Why is that? Because people like J4YN1CK5 think that if you can just get everybody to understand that we have to talk with consideration of other people's feelings first, then everything will be fine. So now that we know this, we'll teach the children they're not retarded. They're special. Well, am I special too? Yes, you're special too. So you mean I'm retarded? No, there are no retarded people. They're just special people. Well, why are they special then? How are they different than I am? They're special because they're retarded, right? No. No. We don't use that word. Okay, so their brains don't work right, correct? No, all brains work equally right. They're all just as good as every other brain. Just different and special. You're creating a class here when you say these people are special. You're saying they're a different class of people than ordinary people. My question is, what makes them special? And the only correct answer is they're retarded. So you can't agitate the needs, okay? You just can't. Not without pissing me off. If you want to be pro-individual and anti-group reduction, then you can't oppose my use of the word gay. If you want to oppose my use of the word gay, then you can't pretend like you're on the side of homosexual people, because you're reducing them to members of their group. You're saying that everybody who's in this group called homosexual people is disadvantaged by my language. You don't know them. You're not they. How do you know they're disadvantaged? Maybe they think it's funny. The point is, it's on a case-by-case basis. Gay people, like anybody else, are individuals first. They shouldn't be called gay anyway. They should be called homosexuals. But, you know, it's because, why? Why are they called gay? Because gay means, like, happy and flowery and whatever, you know? And so, they're like, that dude seems a little too gay. for my expectations of men. And so, the word gay come to mean homosexual. And queer. Queer means strange. But homosexuals liked that word and embraced it and started referring to themselves as queer all the time, right? So, as a consequence, the word has come to mean gay. You'll note that gay people don't use the word queer to describe me, even though you would make the same argument about it, right? That it would trigger them. When I was a kid, we had a game called Smear the Queer, which was all about how the fact that one of the children was designated as different because they were homosexual meant that we should all smear him. I mean, obviously, it was a barbaric time period in which lots of different individuals were reduced to members of lots of different groups. We still have that phenomenon today. The one group that's demonized and victimized most of all are drug users. People who use drugs are a group that's subject to constant ontological violence. People who use drugs run the risk of continually being told that their words and opinions don't get to be evaluated according to a fair and equitable standard because everything they say is suspect because of their group membership. It's exactly the same phenomenon as when somebody says to a woman, "You're just on your period." Whatever you may be saying right now, I don't have to listen to the words and address it and respond on point. I can dismiss them because of who you are and what you're experiencing as a person, not because of what you say. Well, that's bad. You shouldn't do that. And it works the same way whether you are saying gay people are all bad, or whether you're saying we should have a law reducing the rights of gay people, or whether you're saying we have an obligation to treat gay people with kid gloves because they're so wimpy, or whether you're saying, oh, you're a great asset to this class because you're Asian and that means you're good at math. Positive, negative, whatever. If we're presuming qualities of individuals because of their group membership, then we are part of the problem, as J4YN1CK5 is. You're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. I'm the one on the side of homosexual individuals. You're the one on the side of homosexuals not getting to be individuals. So there you go, J4YN1CK5. Thanks for the comment.